Tucker Whitman,
Here.
Andy Dennison,
Present.
Ben Vitale,
Here.
Chris Petrus,
Present.
Paul Pickney,
Here.
Aileen McNabb Coleman,
Present.
Keith Batman is excused, Joe DeForest,
Present.
Charlie Ripley,
Present.
Joseph Bennett,
Here.
Elaine Daly,
Here.
Timothy Lattimore,
Here.
Michael Didio,
Here.
Ryan Foley,
Present.
Pat Mahoney.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silent prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, before we get into the presentations, I would just like to acknowledge the passing of Mrs. Ann Scanlon. Those of you that had the privilege of knowing her in the many boards and her activity in the community, you knew she was a special lady. So I would just like to acknowledge all that she meant to this community and all that she did for the people that lived here. So presentations, we have Terry Nolan on behalf of the unions.
Good evening and happy holidays. My name is Terry Nolan and I'm the Director of Child Support. We're here today as taxpayers, as county employees, and union members. As our contract comes to an end, we want you to think of us not only as the taxpayers or county employees or union members, but as members of families that look for your support in a fair and cost of living contract. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have anybody for the public to be heard? All right, minutes to approve, November 19th, 2018.
Move them. Second.
You were just going ahead.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried.
Appointments and reappointments,
I'll move the appointments and reappointments.
Second them.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried.
communications and announcements,
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? CCC report. Dr. Durant. Oh, I did it again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Good to be with you. Just a few updates from the college. We're closing in at the end of our semester, finals week this week of our fall semester, and certainly focusing now our recruitment efforts and bringing in our enrollees and our intersession classes that will begin right after the 1st of January, and certainly registering new students and bringing in our class for that begins in our January spring term at the end of the month. Our other focuses since I've been here the last time, we had 2 open houses in November, and each open house, one respectively at each campus, Fulton and Auburn, we had our record number of attendees for each event. We've been building up our marketing campaign and our efforts focused around these events over the last couple of years, trying to get more individuals and their families and supporters to participate and learn about what we're offering at the college, and certainly to decide whether or not, or to gain information whether or not Cayuga is the choice for them. So it's always a positive sign when we can get, over 100 people, over 100 prospective students and their families on our campuses on a Saturday morning to explore what we have to offer. In addition to that, we are in the process of our nationwide search for our provost position. I believe I've mentioned that before. We're hopeful that we'll have candidates to be interviewed at the college in February and March, and to be selecting the candidate to replace our retiring Vice President of Academic Affairs and Provost, Dr. Ann Herron, who is looking to retire at the end of the academic year. And we've been doing a great deal of work this year, certainly looking at our recruitment efforts for next year and looking ahead already. But, as I mentioned in our previous report, we were slightly under our fall enrollment target, and by slightly under, we're about 3% below our budgeted pace for the year. So over the last 30 days or so, we know that information, we project that out to over the year, and we identify the hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential loss in revenue associated with being down in enrollment. And to bring assurance to you, the legislature, and to our community, we've already identified the appropriate amount of expenses and savings that we'll have in our budget to assure that we're on track for a balanced budget in year end. And as context for those that are not familiar with the college's fiscal year, our fiscal year actually begins September 1st. So when we're talking about where we are at today from an enrollment perspective, what it means from a financial perspective, and then how we look at that information and project out or predict for the remainder part of the year, this is my fourth year and our administration's fourth year of doing this. And I can tell you that each year we've done it, we've been able to be within 1% or so within about the first 60 days of our fiscal year or our academic year. So we have great confidence in our internal controls and the infrastructure associated with our predictive modeling when it comes to having some reasonable assurance where we are at. When we get back after the break in January, we'll be focusing on preparing for our audit presentation and our findings in February, and I know our trustees will be looking at that. I can assure you that our fund balance continues to be stable, above the recommended threshold, and we are living within our means with balanced budgets the last few years. So, we're certainly have been focused on a number of areas within the college from an operational perspective. We're participating in the downtown revitalization initiative. We were part of one of the priority projects originally identified at the college for a culinary center, as we talked about previously. We continue to refine our proposal, and we'll work through that process over the next couple of months. And, in front of you today in a resolution is a capital project request for your support to support 3 projects for the institution that are critically important to our future. One of the projects there that we've talked about before is we have reached agreement with the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Cayuga County for them to gift or donate their building, facility, and acreage to the college, pending our ability to secure the funding required to update and modernize the facility. The vision, of course, as outlined in front of you, is a workforce development center. This workforce development center is not just about co-locating multiple agencies. The vision here is to be able to centralize the identity of workforce development and adult education using the resources of multiple agencies so that our community, both in Auburn and afar, can recognize the fact that there's one central place and a premier location that they could go individually to be able to seek opportunities for employment, for training, for workplace development, for our employers to be able to go and use resources to do training for their staffs. It's a really important thing, and I think symbolically, from the college's perspective with its partnering agencies, we want to show our commitment to supporting the human resource needs and the workforce development needs of this community. And I think nothing is a stronger stance than to have it be a priority project for the institution in a highly visible area, sharing resources and services with multiple agencies, combining our resources, and ultimately being able to serve more individuals in an enhanced way. And so tonight, what we're looking to do is to ask you as one of the projects to consider leveraging what we anticipate to be the value of that property based on assessed values and appraisals and other due diligence of $2.4 million, and with your support, we will then be advocating through SUNY and the state process for its inclusion in the executive budget to be able to use the gift that we're being able to receive here from Cornell Cooperative and access to state funds. We're also a participant in the CFA process. We're hopeful that we've asked for, I think, up to $1.4 million in that process to secure for this initiative. We're hopeful that when those awards are announced, that will be one of the projects considered. And our approach to this will be, hopefully within the next month or so, we'll have a great idea of what funds we already have, and then the gap for funds we'll be able to identify in a phase 2 of the project that we will be able to seek out. So it's an important project for us. We're hopeful, and I ask for your support for that one. The second one is an exciting one for the institution as well, because we have had tremendous growth at the college in our area of childcare in the last couple of years. And with the momentum and certainly the need that we're hearing in our community, we're aware that there was a forum last week in our community talking about the crisis of childcare, quality childcare, and we have the unique opportunity to potentially secure some funding that's a gift from our Faculty Student Association of $500,000 to seek a match of that $500,000 from the state, which will allow us to have a capital project at $1 million to potentially renovate and enhance our offerings associated with childcare. We may also look to acquire a facility that could adequately help us serve more children. So let me be clear. We want to strengthen what we do. We want to make sure that we have the facilities in place to have the programming and services for our children that's exactly to the standard that we hope for. And the ultimate goal here, by securing this funding, is to be able to provide child care for more children than what we currently do, and then doing our part to try to address and support sort of the solution-driven focus of the child care shortage in our community. Certainly we're not able to do it alone, but if we can try to do our part, your support tonight on that particular project will help us secure the funding, which will give us the initial step to then look at how we're going to be addressed it in a specific way. And I encourage you to stay tuned with how we're going to approach that in the coming months. The last one, although the dollar amounts may not be at the equal level, our College Foundation has secured $100,000 and donated it to the college for general deferred maintenance and other opportunities on our campus. Similar to county needs and other municipality needs, we have millions of dollars worth of deferred maintenance and critical maintenance needs on our college campus. But this project allows us to chip away at it, and we'll be looking to get a match from the state. So, they're very important to us. We have many physical plant needs for the institution, both here in Auburn and in Fulton in the coming months and years. We'll be talking a great deal about it and its importance to positioning ourselves in our future. But today, we present to you that resolution. It's been passed by our College Board of Trustees and fully supported. And I know it worked through committee the other day, and tonight I'll ask the legislature for your support.
Any questions? Mr. Bennett?
Yes, Doctor. We've talked a little bit about the issue I'm going to bring up right now. September, the board and the college changed the board meetings to 8 o'clock. Since then, we've had 3 meetings scheduled, one scheduled 2 different times on the same day.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to have any stability in there where it's going to be 8 o'clock? Because we had to have it at 8 o'clock.
Right.
And then we keep bouncing around, and then some of the legislators were not even notified of some of them.
Yeah, as I communicated to you, I mean, the fact that you were not notified of the special meeting scheduled for last week at 4:30 on Thursday is certainly an error of the college, and we'll take full responsibility of that.
Right, if you look
It
at
was never intended to be scheduled for any other time other than 4:30. So if it was listed as any other time, that was just an error on the website.
Well, it was listed at 1 o'clock on the website.
Okay. There was a meeting scheduled earlier this semester for 1 o'clock for a special meeting when it came to the proposal of Falcon Park. And again, that was something that came out. You should have been notified. We'll take ownership of that. That was something that came out and was scheduled uniquely at that particular time based on individuals' availability. In addition to that, it was a pacing to be able to meet the expectation of the city council and other times. The primary reason why we scheduled the meeting last week when we did was because as we looked ahead at the schedule and the requirements for us to be able to get in front of you, knowing that the meeting was scheduled for this earlier in the month than what is usually our anticipation of being after our college board meeting, because our college trustee meeting meets next Thursday, we needed to move up and create a special opportunity to be able to have that consideration with the hope that you would indulge us to consider the capital project tonight. In the event that it's not supported tonight, we will miss our opportunity to be included in the budget and the advocacy campaign for this year, and we would be delayed a year. So we'll all take full responsibility, and the lack of communication to you I addressed it internally with those individuals responsible, and certainly we hope to not have it again. But, I give my sincere apologies to each of you, because in no way was it intentional.
Thank you.
Mr. Lattimore.
Doctor, it's good to see you. Merry Christmas.
You as well, always great to see you.
I'm going to be supportive of the taking over the Cornell Cooperative Extension. I think that anytime you can get a piece of Grand Ave where 35,000 cars goes by a day is good for you. But just to follow up on Joe's comment, I mean, we used to have you come before government operations, and I don't know why we don't do that anymore, because there is so much activity. We'd like to be able to process it through our committee system. So along with the time, maybe coming back to government apps for these different projects would be helpful. But I appreciate the college. I've been supportive of the college. I know that there was an editorial in the Citizen today. That's not why I'm voting for this tonight. The Citizen has endorsed some other projects from your predecessor that maybe didn't work out as well. So I'll be supporting it tonight.
Mr. Dennison.
Yeah, I just got one quick question,
Yeah.
because I don't think anybody's really asked it. I'm all for the whole cooperative extension thing, because it's good for both of you. But pending you getting this money for the renovations and stuff, what happens if you don't? Where does that leave us?
Well, within the memorandum of agreement that's established between the college and Cornell Cooperative Extension, we entered, in the interim time, a lease obligation that we're currently beginning a lease obligation between now and the time that we potentially secure funding. However, within the agreement, reviewed by college council and then advised to enter into, in the event that the college is to secure the adequate funding to be able to get the project to the point in which it wants to accept the building, the college will reserve the right to opt out of the contract fully.
Okay, I kind of get all that, but I guess that does answer. I mean, I didn't know if it was still something that you would look for other avenues to
Yes.
try and get.
Yeah, no, I mean, the goal, I mean, that's the protection, but the goal is to fully acquire it and to build it out.
So you're
I will
still-
tell you, we have met with an architect. This due diligence goes back about a year and a half, 2 years. So we've been working on this project, the possibility of this project, for about a year and a half. And we have identified various phases that could be done to accomplish this building, starting at $1 million, $2 million, and so on. So we know that between now and the end of the month, 1st of January, we'll have an idea of what funds are going to be available to us in a phase one, and we'll identify the best way to maximize those dollars. If they fall within the vicinity that we believe that they will, there will be no question we'll be coming to you to accept that building on our behalf, hold it in trust for us, and to be able to do this project.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
All right, next up, we have committee reports and individual legislator reports. Mr. Dennison.
I just want to say, I don't know how many people in this room went, but Sunday was the Ag Museum's Christmas open house. They've had the festival of trees going on for all month, back into November. And my wife and daughter and I went to it Sunday afternoon, probably around 1 o'clock, I guess it was. It was from 11 to 4. And the crossroad from the museum to the Parks building was just wall-to-wall cars. It was probably the best. I've been on that board for 9 years, I think, and it was probably the best turnout I've ever seen there. Just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Ms. McNabb Coleman.
Hi, I just wanted to update the body. As a member of the Wasco Lake Watershed Management Council and a member of the Watershed Inspection Program, we're conducting second interviews tomorrow on the executive director of the watershed. And just to let the body know, we started out with 28 applications and we narrowed it down to 2 great finalists. So tomorrow is our second interview with our second finalist. So I look forward to announcing in the next few weeks the new executive director.
Thank you. Mr. Lattimore.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Didio and I were honored to be with Pam Helming at Memorial City Hall honoring our veterans. It was a very nice affair. Charlie, were you there? I don't remember. I know you spoke at the Marine birthday party, but Pam did an excellent job, and hopefully next year we can find a little more space, but it was great.
Thank you. Mr. Foley?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the county's records retention committee met and are working on a records retention policy, updating that. They will be bringing it forward to the legislature sometime in January or February, just to give us an update. It will come through government operations and go from there.
Thank you.
We met the other day, and I wanted to let everyone know.
Any other reports or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lattimore?
I see our CSCA group here tonight, and Ms. Nolan came up with a great idea in regards to our nursing home, maybe to utilize it for some of the housing that we're now paying presently, some pretty high rates for local hotels. So hopefully we can investigate that idea and see whether or not it fits better with what our spend is for homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, County Administrator's Report.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and legislators. It's been a year. It's been quite a year of excitement and challenges and new opportunities and growth, and I think a lot of progress. So I thought after a year it would be an appropriate time to share with you and discuss what I think some of the major accomplishments of the team have been during 2018, as well as check back in with you in terms of where we are in the organizational assessment that you conducted before hiring me, completed shortly after I arrived, the recommendations I made to you, and the progress that we've made on those, as well as the anticipated projects for 2019. So a couple of the projects I'd like to, we're wireless now. Thank you to IT for that, by the way. A couple of the major accomplishments I'd like to point out this year, and I'll go through these really quickly, but I'd just like to say at the outset that none of these accomplishments are mine. They're really a testament to the team that we have and the team that we continue to build, and they were all collaborative efforts, and they were done in partnership with your support and funding and leadership. So we heard when you hired me that there needed to be a focus on more transparent communication and public relations, both internally and externally. So the department heads worked really hard right at the beginning of the year to put out the first monthly report. It was an aggressive timeline, to say the least. I'd only been here a couple weeks and left for NISAC, while Steve Lynch and Lori and a number of people, Suzanne in the planning department, really worked hard on pulling that together and developing a framework for that we used and refined throughout the year. The New York State Deferred Comp Plan enrollment was another project that was really changing a course of a ship that you'd already been on for some time. Mr. Lattimore, the Treasurer's Office, the HR department, we all came together and re-examined what had been done to date and charted a new path that I'm pleased to report has seen a 15% increase in enrollment participation, as well as significantly reduced fees to our employees. I want to thank the union leadership from all the unions who also participated in that effort. We worked through some bumpy roads to facilitate the broadband build-out, but we did ultimately issue those permits and do it in a way that was legal and prudent and protected the county both from liability as well as ensured that we had adequate assurance for our infrastructure. We unrolled a shared services plan that almost all of the departments participated in. Lynn and Steve Lynch and Monica did a tremendous amount of coordination for that. But then each of the individual projects and presentations, Lloyd, the district attorney, Kelly Anderson, Public Works, both our staff here as well as outside consultants and even experts from other communities came and participated with our local partners on Friday afternoons all summer to complete our shared service plan. And as great of an accomplishment as completing that plan was, it really is just the beginning, because we have a number of those initiatives moving forward towards implementation in 2019. We rolled out fleet management in the sheriff's office for the road patrol. A couple bumps in rolling that out as well in terms of Ford's production schedule, but we've been assured that all of those cars are in production scheduled for January, and we should have them equipped and optimized and delivered by early spring. We worked with Mr. Batman and the leadership in the village of Aurora to develop a financing strategy, a bridge financing strategy, to ensure that the water system could be replaced well in advance of the state funds being available. That was a creative solution that you participated in by transferring certain funds to the Cayuga County Development Corporation that allowed us to do that, and that was a real accomplishment on a significant public health issue that the health department and the planning department had been working on for quite a long time. The Public Works and the Buildings and Grounds Department worked closely with the city to do the stormwater separation out back, and next year we look forward to getting that paved and smooth, as well as some of our other lots. But that was a real collaborative effort with us and the city that saved us a significant amount of money than if we had gone out to bid for those, or gone out to public contract for those by designing them with the city. We proposed and we discussed most of the year creating a Department of Public Works, which you ultimately approved, and we have some resolutions on the agenda tonight for consideration to finalize the planning portion of that and then really move into the implementation phase. We advanced the solar projects that you've been discussing for a number of years, and we were able to successfully renegotiate our insurance contracts, specifically in the workers' comp area. That saved a significant amount of money, $500,000 for us and our local municipal partners in the volunteer fire department and in our costs. So I'm really proud of everything our team has accomplished this year. It was an ambitious agenda. Perhaps at times we bit off too much too fast, and we didn't accomplish everything we set out, and we certainly didn't do it without bumps in the road. But I think we learned through the process, and we came together as a team, and we continue to move forward under your leadership to implement the policy agenda that you outline and identify, and try to focus on delivering high-quality professional services to our community in a way that is fiscally responsible and prudent and creative and modern. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity. And thank all of the staff. Please, a big round of applause for everybody who worked on all these projects this year, because it really was a team effort. I also thought that it was really important after a year to revisit where I understood the legislature to want to go, where I reported back in the spring I thought we should go, and where we are today, both in terms of the progress made as well as the direction forward. I think this is an important time to reflect on those things, and as you come into the beginning of the year, be able to discuss those within your caucuses and come back with understanding what your policy agenda is for 2019. So I won't read every one of these, but just to summarize, CGR made a number of recommendations about resourcing the administrator's office, creating a budget director in the office, and really focusing on improving the policy and administrative duties and clarifying those. They also talked about the need for a more centralized purchasing department and recommended the implementation of a purchasing card program, and they made recommendations about improving our communications infrastructure. Back in the spring, I recommended that we move the budget director to the 6th floor. If I can take credit for one thing this year, the smartest thing I did was bring Lynn upstairs and have somebody to bounce ideas off of and really be a partner in figuring things out. We've also been working on, with the treasurer's office, assessing our purchasing card program, both in terms of what makes sense to use the purchasing cards for, as far as the rebate we actually get, as it relates to how much time is involved in using that process. We're still working on that evaluation, but the purchasing office, the treasurer's office, and my office are working closely on that. We proposed and you approved a purchasing director position in the 2019 budget. That position has been created, and as you know, it was funded at 3/4 of a year, so we hope to use the first quarter for recruitment and then be ready to hire late in the spring. More longer term, there was discussion during the course of the year of both the treasurer's short-term needs with significant rollover and then longer-term discussion about a finance department. I think where we are right now is that the accounting unit has been all filled, but after 75% turnover. And right now is the time for them to get their feet on the ground and gel together as a team, get up to speed with operations. And it's certainly a conversation that the treasurer and I continue to have from a theoretical perspective, but I think it's a conversation that's much later in the year, once we see how things are coming together and how they develop. The report also, I also recommended last spring that in the future we'd like to build our infrastructure for having graduate students, law students, potentially exploring a fellowship program where you bring in recent grads and begin building your management and your professional bench. We haven't done any work on that yet, but that's something that could come back up later in the year. And we talked about, I made a recommendation about that, well, CGR made a recommendation that an organization of our size should have a communications director. I didn't think that that was financially feasible or practical at this time, but as you know, we did incorporate those duties into the executive assistant role, who has played a significant role in helping us shape our communications message and drafting press releases, managing and updating our web content, and also is managing our website project. As far as human resources, CGR recommended centralizing onboarding and conducting a comprehensive study of salary positions. Centralized orientation and onboarding is occurring through the HR department. We did a couple months ago in October Ways and Means meeting, the Ways and Means Committee directed me to solicit proposals for a compensation plan. We did do that. We solicited from 6 firms who had experience working in New York to do that work. We received 2 proposals. We evaluated them, and we do ultimately have a recommendation. I talked with the legislators who recommended that we do that, and did draft a resolution on their behalf for you to consider. I think it's an important discussion for you to have. Every time we come forward with a new position or a vacancy, we have a significant debate here, as is appropriate, about what the appropriate salary is or should be. And absent a up-to-date and market-sensitive compensation plan, we don't have a consistent way to do that. And this proposal that you have a resolution before you would give you a way to do that. It would formalize a structure. It would establish the salary ranges that are appropriate for positions. And most importantly, it would give us a way to figure out how to develop internal equity. We have to, when we have vacancies, assess what we need to do to fill those vacancies. And we have to go out in the market and find those people. But what it doesn't take into account for is whether we're paying market competitive salaries to the people we have. And the more we replace those positions and recruit new people that are market competitive, we there's the potential for us to create market inequities internally. And I think that we need to have the data and understand where we are and have a plan and a path to fairly and equitably review those considerations. So I look forward to your discussion, and I hope you'll consider passing that proposal that we have before you tonight. That proposal does have a funding source. There is money in your professional services budget that's unexpended, and our proposal, as we discussed and proposed at Ways and Means, would be to contract before the end of the year, encumber those funds for 2018 out of the professional services budget. Those were funds that were budgeted for Phase 2 CGR implementation work, and I think that is consistent with what this is. And there isn't a funding source. We could potentially find one, but there isn't a dedicated budgeted source for that in the 2019 budget. Medium and longer term recommendations that I presented in the spring focused on expanding some of our HR labor capacity, looking at how we can potentially do more internally than using outside consultants, and also building our HR and training capacity. As far as IT and payroll, one of the recommendations that was strongly suggested that we haven't turned to yet, but I think we really need to, beyond just needing IT staff, is really completing a more comprehensive technology needs assessment. And I think that's consistent with the type of strategic planning that we'd like to begin organization-wide. As far as planning and training the department heads and the senior management team about what that looks like, it's one of the things I'd like to begin in 2019 and begin to develop some strategic planning, some more strategic planning that we can present with you to you in advance of the 2020 budget development. We did propose in the 2019 budget some funding that you approved, at least budgetarily, for automating payroll. That's a project that we need to put together a team and continue to evaluate, but it's something I hope we can accomplish and implement in 2019. And then there'll be longer considerations about where payroll and benefits should be located. Should they be located in a finance department? Should they be located in an HR department? Those are organizational questions that, as we continue to look at our organization and where things belong, that we'll have to look at and consider and discuss. This CGR report made some recommendations about the Department of Public Works and focusing on capital planning. As you know, that's been a large focus this year. We created the Department of Public Works. We recruited a couple of candidates that we have resolutions for you to consider tonight. And that will give us the capacity to work with and build on some of the work that Mr. Dagenau has done as a consultant and some of the work that Gary's been doing by himself for a lot of years, and integrate capital planning into a more comprehensive countywide effort. That starts with the public works and facilities, but it also includes planning, it includes finance, it includes law, it includes how we're going to pay for things, how we're going to develop long-term financial plans to pay for them, and how we're going to fund these over time. So I'm really excited to begin that process. It's one that I know Mr. Vitale and others have talked about that is needed for a long time. Mr. Ripley talked about capital planning in the military, and I think we've built a team that has the skill set to really partner together and execute that, or at least the beginning phases of that this year. We also talked about last spring that at some point we were going to need a civil engineer. We didn't have a civil engineer in in public works or in buildings and grounds and facilities. We have engineers that are doing incredible work in public health, environmental health, and in planning, but we needed additional engineering capacity. I think the proposal that we have to you for the Deputy Public Works Director will satisfy that need and really expand our technical capacity. I believe that will increase our ability to secure more grants, reduce some of our need for outside expenditures and consultants for things that we can do in-house, and we're really excited about the plan we've laid forth before you. And I would just add, as far as those two positions together. We propose doing that, at least at the initial outset, for a decrease of almost $15,000 versus what we had budgeted and expended by essentially expanding the duties of one position and deferring filling another to another year or two out. There were a lot of recommendations we talked about in the spring about the assigned counsel office, the youth bureau, Stop DWI, and how the funding for those were really disproportionate to the duties performed. As we presented during the budget process, the timing of that assessment really lined up with the state investing significantly more resources in indigent legal services and supporting our plan to move that to becoming an independent full-time office. There are subsequent discussions that we need to continue to have with the affected parties in those programs, Stop DWI and Youth Bureau, and identify where the appropriate places to put those are. The sheriff-elect is certainly interested in being the program administrator or having the sheriff's office be the program administrator for Stop DWI. There's a number of questions and logistics that we have to figure out there. As well as the Youth Bureau, we're looking at the Department of Social Services and the leveraging of various youth programs and youth justice reform. We talked about the need to increase staffing at the probation department, which we did. We created a position, a juvenile justice supervisor position, in preparation for the Raise the Age implementation. We backfilled that position, and then we also added a new one with the funding. And I think we're scheduled for one more in 2019 as the state revenues start to come in for juvenile justice. I'm not going to spend a long time on this one, but the CGR report did talk about, and we discussed last spring, the need to explore better coordination and integration of the county attorney's office and the social service attorneys. There's so much happening in the county attorney's office right now that I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Just to say that, Mr. Palermo and I are having a number of conversations about what that might look like, and there's other people that we have to talk to, but that was a conversation that we started last spring, and those conversations, I think, will continue to be explored as we build a new legal team. And social services, they reorganized and renovated significant portions of their workspace in 2018. That has improved their opportunity for collaboration and coordination, as well as their service capabilities. And we have a resolution before you tonight that's worked its way through the committee process to fund the Northwood software. That was both a recommendation of CGR and a long-term priority that you've discussed for quite some time. So just to recap, our focus areas this year have really been in public works, in helping the treasurer rebuild and turn over his accounting staff. We had a new department head in the Veteran Services Office. We had some organizational changes in the administrator's office, and we spent a significant amount of time and resources and investment on the shared service planning. As we move into 2019, those initiatives that we kicked off in 18 are now moving into the implementation phase. We're by no means done with them. There's more work to be done on them than probably even in queuing them up. But we continue to look forward to implementing a comprehensive purchasing program, which when the Office of State Comptroller report comes out is going to be one of their significant recommendations and findings. We have to implement the public works infrastructure that you've approved, and we have some shared service agreements that are rolling out directly tied to the shared service planning we did in real property, as well as some growth and turnover in that office. We are going to switch and start looking at some additional areas. We've got a proposal before you to appoint an emergency management director, and I think that's an exciting opportunity to bring in somebody with experience to take a fresh set of eyes looking at that operation. As I mentioned, we have the opportunity to move towards a full-time funding of the assigned counsel, and we have the ancillary challenge of trying to figure out where to put the programs that can't be administered there anymore. And we'll probably take a look at some of the, at the Office of the Aging, which was a small department that may be better served as part of a larger department. So, in conclusion, I'd just like to once again say thank you so much to all of the department heads and staff in the county. This has been one of the most exciting years of my life. I've enjoyed working with you all. I've enjoyed living here, and my wife will enjoy it once our house is done being rehabbed. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Lattimore.
In regards to our charts, I've asked before that our existing charts and positions and the cost of those positions versus the new charts and the cost, I'd like to see that a little clearer in the future. And then, like tonight, we got 3 Ways and Means 8, 9, and 10 in regards to taxes. We're reducing several different taxing things, Lee Publishing, Xylem, and Nelson Associates. I'd like to see what the impact is on the school district and on the cities, bottom line, and county, village, towns, whatever those are, in the future.
Yes, sir.
Other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for a great year, and thank you, just, if I may, to the sheriff for serving on the selection committee that brought me here, and for all of your years of service to the community.
All right, now it's time for my report.
TV star.
So, all I can say is, wow, what a long, strange year it's been. And one of the smartest things that I did was give up my second office to Lynn Marinelli so that she could come up to the 6th floor to save Justin. So I want to go back to last fall. When I became interested in this position, the intriguing thing for me was that we were bringing on a new administrator, and there was an opportunity for change, an opportunity to separate our department heads, our administrator, our employees, our day-to-day people, the people that were in charge of day-to-day operations from us, and let the people that have the professional ability make those decisions and then come to this board for approval. It wasn't long after an article was out in the paper that I got a phone call from a mentor of mine who led me through the entire administrative process as an intern and all the way through as a principal from Florida, and she said to me, "Pat, what the hell are you thinking?" And we went on and had the conversation, and she said, "I went through this," because she was also a board member at one point in a different district, and she said, "The best advice I can give you is get out after 1 year, because you're going to make a mess." And I firmly believe that I made a mess. But it's a good mess, because as you can see from Justin's presentation, a lot was accomplished. When we put the control in the hands of the people that have the knowledge, good things happen. We are here to approve. Nothing happens in this county without our approval, but we also have to trust. We have to trust the department heads. We have to trust the employees. We have to trust our county administrator. So I think that we're going forward in that direction. So that being said, I do want to thank Justin for all the work that he's put in this year. There's a couple things I'll miss. I'll miss the great phone calls that always start with, "I got great news," and then this is what happens. A couple things I won't miss is the phone call where it says, "We have another issue, and we need to meet," and the late night meetings, and the numerous times where I have to say, "Justin, just slow down. Just slow down." I think that was my job from January till about now, is to just, he's got great ideas, but also working him through and doing it the right way and making sure that we're not biting off more than we can chew. I also want to thank the department heads and the employees. I know the year wasn't perfect. This was a big change. I hope that we can take this year, reflect on it, and learn what worked, what didn't work, and that we can continue to progress forward. Thank you to all of you, the legislature. I know we didn't agree at times. In fact, I don't know if we ever agreed on how I handled things or did things. But I commend you, because this is not an easy job. We are wrong 50% of the time, and we're right 50% of the time. We're always going to have someone upset with us. It's sometimes a thankless job. It's sometimes a lonely job. So I commend you for taking it on and representing Cayuga County and the people that live here. Finally, special thank you to our sheriff. I was looking forward to January when I went back to my back row seat and Tucker moved to the right so that we could continue our conversations. Oh, by the way, how's your wife? How's your family? How are the kids? I don't think I ever got to answer the first question before you got to the third question. But I appreciated the conversations that we've always had. The one thing that impressed me the most, I've always had the utmost respect for you, Dave, and what you've done for that department and with all the boards you serve on and for the people of this county. But we had some tough meetings this year, and not everybody in the room agreed. And the one thing I took away from those meetings was they had the utmost respect for you, and you had the utmost respect for them, and it made those meetings manageable. So thank you, and enjoy your retirement, and please, finally, take a vacation. Thank you, Sheriff.
He'll find something else to do. He's not going to retire.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a gold watch or anything to give?
There's cookies.
He's got enough of those.
Yeah, there's cookies.
All right, now on to resolutions. Mr. Bennett, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have regular monthly resolutions, 1A and 1B. I'd like to move them. They've been through committee, and
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried.
thank you. Ways and Means had 14 resolutions. They all went through committee. As you see, Ways and Means 14 was added. It was discussed at committee and then added yesterday, but I'd like to move them all as a bundle unless somebody'd like them separated.
Can we separate WM9?
WM9.
Okay, I'd like to offer, we'll start with, I'll bundle 1 through 8 to start with right now.
All right, we have a bundle 1 through 8. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
WM9. I'd like to offer that up along for Mr. Whitman here.
Move it.
Discussion.
I would just like to add that I'm going to abstain from this vote. The company I work for does business with Xylem.
Further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye. And then W10 through W14, I'd like to offer them up as a bundle.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anything else?
That's it for now, thank you.
All right, Health and Human Services, Ms. Daly.
Yep, Health and Human Services has 7 resolutions tonight. I'd like to offer them up they've all been through committee. I'd like to offer them up as a bundle unless anyone wants them separated.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion on the bundle, HH 1 through 7? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anything else? Government Ops, Mr. Foley.
Mr. Chairman, Government Operations had 6 resolutions. They passed through GovOps and Ways and Means, and I offer them up as a bundle.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anything else? Planning, Mr. Pinkney.
Mr. Chairman, planning has 1 resolution, been through both committees, seeks your approval.
Second on planning 1? Mr. Ripley. Any discussion? Mr. Lattimore.
Is this with the adjusted 25 Justin hit?
Completely different thing.
This is the remaining balance of the 150, correct?
Oh, okay.
This
They
is,
put into the.
this is for, this is for the money that was
For the-
budgeted
no, I
to,
don't.
this is for the money that was budgeted to move into the Economic Development Reserve in 2018.
Right.
The resolution making it an automatic transfer had expired, and this is to effect that transfer.
Thank you for the explanation.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Anything else for us, Mr. Pinckney?
Thank you very much.
Public Works, Mr. Whitman.
Mr. Chairman, Public Works has 2 resolutions that have been through committee. I would like to bundle them.
Move them.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. Anything else?
No.
Judicial and Public Safety, Mr. Dennison.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, JPS has 3 resolutions. They've been through committee and passed, so I'll offer them as a bundle.
Move them.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. Mr. Dennison, anything else?
Nope,
All
thank
right.
you.
All right, getting to ledge, what we could do, I would offer ledge 1, 2, and 3 as a bundle, seeing as how they have been through committees.
Move them.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. All right, the next 4 ledge resolutions have been discussed, but I will go through them individually. Ledge 4 was added 12/12/18, appointing Chris Palermo as county attorney.
Second.
We can read.
Any discussion?
Don't be so sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's
Congratulations.
carried.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We're not standing yet.
Mr. DeForest.
I'd like to move that we go into executive session to discuss new information concerning basically the next 3 resolutions that's presented itself in the last 24 hours.
So we have a motion for executive session for a reason?
This is
Discussing
Chairman, if I may,
employment.
Mr. DeForest, number 5, this is the entire compensation plan, did you intend to include that?
No, I'm sorry.
So we can do ledge 5 and then separate those last 2?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to move ledge 5.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Foley?
Mr. Chair, so my question with this is, I think it should be fleshed out a little bit more, and just so we can see the proposal, understand, maybe there's legislators that want something added to this. I mean, it's great that Justin brought it to us at the request of a committee. This is the actual proposal. I think it should go to committees next month, hash it out, maybe get some input from legislature, and move through the regular process. This is the first time I think a lot of us are seeing this, and it was emailed out today. With
Mr.
that said-
Didio.
Wait.
I thought you were done, sorry.
With that said, I would move to table this for next month, so
Second it.
it's allowed to go for committee.
So we got a second on the table of ledge 5. Any discussion on tabling ledge 5? Mr. Whitman?
What's the concern? Just that it's new?
Well,
Are we
it's
concerned
new.
with the dollar amount? Are we concerned how they're going to do it? I'm just curious because it's, you know.
No, that's reasonable.
All of the above.
I think all of the above
Yeah.
is probably good.
Absolutely.
Mr. Woods, is this time sensitive?
There's money in the 2018 budget that can be used for this. Is the contract itself time sensitive? No. If it were to be moved forward to 2019, we'd have to identify a source of funds for it. So it's really a legislative decision.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Like Mr. Wood said in his presentation there, he was charged back in October to take and go out and get us this information and to bring it back to us. He has brought it back to us and stuff, and I believe we should move forward.
Mr. Vitale?
I just think that we had the discussion about encumbering these funds so they would be available in 2019, and I think if they were encumbered, it wouldn't make any difference at all.
The concern I would have with that is at our last meeting, we discussed encumbering funds and carrying them over to the 2019 budget. The message that we're sending, and I believe our budget director advised us not to do that. If I'm mistaken, I could be. Ms. Daly?
I think that had to do with there was no essential contract that would be ready to be moved forward. They were moving expenses. I think, to me, this is, again, just the consideration of having things come through committee.
I would just add, the difference would be that if we entered into the contract, I think we can encumber the money. If we don't enter into the contract, I'm not an accountant, so I'll defer to our financial staff on that. But I think there's a difference if we enter into a contract and we have a purchase order or an invoice versus if we don't.
Mr. Foley?
I'd like to call the vote.
Okay. So, we have a motion to table, Ledge 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Dennison, Whitman. Yeah. That's it.
No, there's only 3 people.
Well, if there- No, the motion to table passed.
The
Yeah.
table passed, there was 3 opposed. Let's not
Four.
reinvent the wheel. 4.
All right, moving on to Ledge 6 and 7, Mr. DeForest.
I got the reinvent the wheel, so.
What was it?
All right, we have a request for a short recess.
Oh, yeah, Dennison.
Recess.
No. Executive session or recess?
It's a recess.
Please.
What do we do in a recess? I ain't never had one of these yet.
Put your jack
Playing the sandbox.
This is
Can
like
I eat
snow
my-
days.
Can I eat my M&Ms?
Rubber ball and jacks. Hey, Daly, hold up on the jungle.
Playtime is over.
Yeah, I never heard the whistle.
Now, we're missing one, but,
He's here.
oh, all right. All right, Mr. DeForest.
So I move we go into executive session to discuss a particular employee.
The employment of a particular individual.
Yes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, going into executive session.
You staying right here?
Yeah. Merry Christmas, everybody.
What do you mean, we got to leave?
Oh, for the Tito's.
Enjoy the retirement, sir.
No, is he bothering you?
These are going to make you guys stick around. I was trying to move along.
I know.